Do you really understand what this country is and does? This tiny little island, the second largest economy in the European Union. How? The fifth largest economy in the world. How? At least it was last week. The only way to stop unemployment, to stop austerity, is to grow an economy. How do we grow an economy outside of the biggest free trade club in the world? You tell me how to do it, because they don't know.
I'm here because I have just an unbelievable amount of rage and frustration about what has happened in this country in the last week. I've never been so ashamed by our political establishment.
We've really sort of divided society, and it is not very productive in terms of moving forward. The idea of, in a globalised society, of us all splitting up and creating barriers and sticking to nations rather than togetherness is really counter to sort of my ethos and my generation's ethos.
We just felt we had to do something about it. This is the once-in-a-generation change, and we feel deeply upset because up until now I've always considered myself to be part of Europe, and to break away from it feels like we're going in the wrong direction. You know, we embrace people from all over the world. That's always been the strength of London, and we must continue that, and indeed it's the strength of the UK.
And I'm here with tens of thousands of people from around the country to declare to the rest of Europe that we love them, and what the message that Britain is an isolated country, not interested in our neighbours, turning our back on our neighbours, that is not accurate.
To leave what is a really important part of our international position on the basis of political parties infighting just seems so wrong and so sad.
We're all misrepresented. I'm misrepresented, and I'm a white 24-year-old middle-class Guardian reader, and I don't look at the government and feel like I have any faith in them whatsoever. Then how do people from my mum's hometown in Hull, how does an unemployed young girl my age, whose life will remain difficult, Brexit or no Brexit, what's going to motivate them to get involved in politics? I think that's a real question we all have to ask here.
There was a lot more at stake than people realised, and those who decided to vote as protests, maybe we didn't engage with them enough to really try and convince them the benefits of being in the European Union.
A disaffected population had made a protest on the back of a campaign which promoted all the wrong things.
They were fed misinformation. I know 3 people who actually voted to protest but now regret it. They never actually thought they'd win, but they didn't realise that the only really anti-establishment campaigner was Corbyn.
We will not stand for a coup against the fundamental rights of the people in the Labour Party to elect their leader. We need democratic control of the Labour Party and democratic control of our society. And we can unite with the other people in Europe and make a new Europe, a better Europe, another Europe, a Europe of the people.
Feel that the future's been taken out of our hands, and that the country's been led into this situation by a small minority of media moguls who, between like 4 families, control 80% of the readership.
Several newspapers in this country who have a daily diet of spewing out hatred about people from different backgrounds, different communities, and about the diversity of our country.
This has been just an absolute farce. Project Hate winning against Project Fear, and now the country all hates each other. We may be Great Britain, but we're not a United Kingdom.
We've had politicians for too long, whilst knowing it's in Britain's interest to be in the European Union, to just take every opportunity to slag off the European Union for short-term political benefit.
It shows the fragility of our political system that they are willing and ready to gamble on such a important decision for the rest of us to enhance their own profiles.
What was designed to poke Brussels in the face has backfired.
That man on that statue, this whole thing was his idea. 1946 in Zurich. The only way we will stop fighting after 1,000 years is if we bind together in economic harmony and growth. Churchill, of course he was right. This political giant against hippies like Gove and Johnson, please.
We commemorated the 100th anniversary of the Battle of the Somme, and it's a little reminder of what a disunited Europe looks like. You know, those guys fought for their country, died for their country, but they also died as part of, I guess, an example of what happens when people don't sit around the table and talk to each other.
I think it's been a wonderful project, and they've done brilliantly. And we should be there leading it, not leaving it.
The EU is an organisation that in principle is set up in order to dissolve national differences. It is there to hopefully live in a borderless world.
I had always wanted to go and study filmmaking in Europe, and I'd always wanted to go and live in Berlin. That's going to be a lot harder now.
I'm a scientist, so from that point of view, the budget for science, funds and joint projects, everything would become extremely difficult, if not impossible, if we leave the EU.
As a creative, we thrive off of integration, off of multiculturalism, and if we lost that, that'd be a great shame for the knowledge-based industry that the UK has.
Like, will they kick us out? I don't know, do you have to get some special permits, working permits to work here? God knows.
For me, the fallout is most upsetting, that we are perceived as this nation that doesn't need the rest of the world.
It was really important to vote to stay in because now we've definitely given credence to right-wing nationalists, not only in the UK but across Europe.
The campaign that the Leave group won their votes on was full of lies. It stirred up hatred. Racial crime in this country has risen by over 50%.
I don't think that just because the country voted to leave that it's a reason for hate crime and xenophobia to increase. It shouldn't happen anywhere in this country.
People who come here and enrich our culture and see them blamed for what the Tory government has been doing with their austerity cuts. It makes me so angry. I just...
There will be those who smear us and say we're here attacking the millions of people who voted Leave. So let's make it clear, our argument is not with those millions of people. Millions of people who have fears and concerns that have long been unaddressed by politicians. People who I grew up with, who have every reason to be angry with those at the top. We're not attacking them. We're not belittling them. Never let anyone say we are. Our argument is with an official Leave campaign full of charlatans who stirred up lies and bigotry. That's what they did.
Tories out! Tories out! Against nothing great! Against nothing great! EU!
Who knows whether this protest will actually change anything, but I think the very act of being here and raising our voice against the establishment is significant and important.
At least we need to show Europe that we want to still be part of it with them.
Just to tell the world that we're not this xenophobic country that doesn't want to move forward in a progressive society.
I think we should be looking at means to engage with communities outside of London. It's all good and well protesting here, but we should be trying to engage with communities who feel maybe marginalised and who feel as though their voices haven't been heard for a long period of time.
We need to start making decisions based on hope and resilience instead of fear.
Let's set up a new movement that can unite people to take on the challenges we now face. But friends, yes, this is the worst national crisis since 1945. But people in this country have confronted crisis and threats throughout our history, and we have overcome them. The people who fought for the rights of women to vote, who fought for workers' rights, who fought for the NHS, for a welfare state, who fought racism and sexism and homophobia. Let's have the same courage, the same determination, the same hope of our ancestors. Let's stand together, let's fight this battle together, and together we will win.
Organise, get serious, get ready. We have 2 years. We have 2 years. We will turn this around. We will turn this around.